Today was a first, though. Today we did a track day delivery. And we're so proud to have Stephen Rupp, Motor Trend magazine writer, with us today. Now, Stephen, this is your second vehicle from Tim Lally Chevrolet, correct?
Yes, it is. Picked up a used 2019 Crush Orange Z01, one of the exact same car as this, but orange in a 2019.
And now you reside out in North Carolina, right?
Yeah, Mooresville.
So how did you find Tim Lally Chevrolet?
Basically looking online and trying to find, I wanted orange. I wanted Crush Orange. At the time, my favorite color until the Rapid Blue came out. And wanted to do some track stuff with it. I'm senior technical editor at Hot Rod magazine with Motor Trend, so I really write more for Hot Rod, the older cars. We do a lot of pro touring cars and stuff, but I wanted a newer car because it's just so much easier to go to the track. The old cars are really cool, but they're a lot of work to try to keep on track and to maintain. So this would be easier for me to go out and do track days and have fun, and I can still do my old car stuff. Was looking online for a car, and I found the one online, and it was at your dealership. And man, it was a good price, and it was the car I was looking for. And I dealt with Jeff, and he was super easy to deal with. And I called up and I said, I don't need to test drive it. I don't need to see it. Give me a price. And gave me a price and wired the money, and I flew up here and got the car and drove it home. So it was really nice. And so when this one came available, we ordered it, and it was nice when they said, hey, we can do a track day delivery on it. And I'm like, hey, that's even better, because I'm a little rusty with the COVID. It's been a year or so since I've been on track, so it was nice to be able to get the car out and stretch it.
We appreciate you coming up here now. Tell me a little bit about your career, because you started out in Southern California, correct?
Yeah, I'm a California native. We escaped California about 3 years ago. I think 3 years ago now. And yeah, California is a great place to visit. It's a hard place to live. And moved to North Carolina. But yeah, I was a technical editor for Popular Hot Rodding magazine about 20 years ago. Eventually moved over to Camaro Performers. That's my love for Camaros. So worked there. And then I ran Vet magazine for a while. I'm just not a Corvette guy. I like Corvettes. I'm just not I don't have enough New Balance shoes in my wardrobe.
And again, that's
matching shirts.
Yeah, so we're done that stereotype with this here. But my first track day here was in a car just like the one you got. So the Z01 Camaro. Mike took me out. I'm not a thrill seeker, not a racer, by any speeder, but not a racer at all. And it was very impressive to go out there and we hit 140 mile an hour in the backstretch. The data recorder showed 1.45 Gs. But what was really cool is when we're all done, he goes, he says, look at this. He pulls up the gauges, and the car hadn't even broke a sweat. Just a phenomenal performance.
Yeah, no, they're just amazing cars. So, yeah. So like I said, I love Corvettes. I'm just a Camaro guy. I always make the excuse, oh, you have back seat. Nobody ever sits in my back seat, so it's a lie. I just like Camaros. And then I ran a Super Chevy magazine forever until they closed down a lot of the magazines. And then I was moved over to Hot Rod, where I've been doing Hot Rod editing. So we're trying to do more modern muscle stuff. And so we're going to be working with you guys on some Z06 stuff I heard about, C8 Z06.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We can't wait to get
I know. So we're going to do some stuff about that. And we're going to be doing some mods on the Camaro and doing some stuff. I already have a roll bar set up for the back and so some stuff. And it's hard to leave them stock, but they're so good stock. They're just a great performing car, and to come out here and run it on this track, which is actually, I've never heard of this track, but this is a really nice track.
And the Nelson Legends Road Course, it's actually one of the oldest courses out there, and it was one back in the day where you just plow the field and pave a track and have fun on it versus the hyper-engineered ones.
Yep.
So it really is an old-school track resurrected by the current owners there.
Well, they did a fine job because it is a nice, easy-to-drive track. And especially for, there's technical parts to it, but it's not so crazy like some where you have a bunch of elevation changes and blind hills and stuff that are hard on new people. So to do track day deliveries here is a really nice track for that because it's user friendly. You could drive it easier for new people, or you could probably push it really hard for the more experienced people.
Yeah, this is where I learned to drive.
Yeah.
So I've been coming here for 7-8 years.
Yeah, all the tracks I used to drive on are all in, Button Willow Springs,
Yeah.
Spring Mountain. I went to Gingerman and rode Atlanta, a couple out here. But yeah, this is, like I said, I wish this wasn't 7 hours from my house.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it was great. It's cool. You're a racer's kid when you're able to learn to drive on a track. Actually, Mike used to have an advantage at this track here before they resurfaced it because back in the day it had a few strategic potholes here and there and some rough spots. So on night races, he knew to count the seconds after he bumped. So we're actually joined by the big dog, Mike Lally himself. On his home track. So, Mike, we were just talking about Stephen doing our first track day delivery here and the history of the track. Now you've done.
I get like a little pin or something, right? Like
countless hours
pin
on
or
this one, yeah.
signed napkin.
Get some swag going here. Definitely.
I mean, how many laps would you say you logged on the track, or can you count that high?
Hundreds of thousands probably over all the years. It's been 35 years since actually a couple gentlemen that I was here on my first day are still here. Paul Ham and his brother Jeff were both out here, and I met them that day. And it was not that long ago, probably 6-7 years ago, that I was drinking a six-pack out front to, possibly say goodbye to the track. And luckily the Ross family bought the place and kept this place alive. It's like that first girlfriend. You always will remember, and nothing.
Well, we
nothing will
lose.
shake it from your memory. And it's just great getting back to this track and seeing the surface is. With all the tracks that we run with the race teams, the surface here is just, outstanding. And that home field advantage helps. I didn't mind. When the trees were blocking everything and the potholes were out there, I knew where they were. And the great thing was they didn't move. But now it's a much more friendly place to people that have not spent time driving it, which I think is a testament to what they do.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. This is just it's a good track for new drivers, and it's got enough technical stuff to interest drivers that have been out for a while.
Yeah.
So Land Sharks, one of Mike's other companies, does land clearing. Put in a lot of effort here too. So cleared out. If you look at the aerial view of the track that they taught on versus what it is now. I mean, Land Sharks came in, did a great job of chewing up a lot of the weeds, doing a little beaver control, and getting it back to where it's
Well, it's great to see these tracks saved because we lose way too many tracks.
Absolutely.
I'm from California, the land of let's kill tracks, because we decided to build a housing development next to a track, and then we complain about the noise.
Yeah, exactly.
You got Pomona.
If you're a garbage man, don't complain about the smell. Is kind
Right,
of
you build your house next to an airport, and then you say, "What's up with all the damn airplanes?" Kind of thing. And so that happens a lot. Track closed, and then kids go race out on the streets, and you're like, "Well, give them some racetracks to go to."
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, I'm never a more legal driver than when I race all day long. I don't speed for a few days at least.
Well, that's what I tell my son. You got my son over there. I tell him, you race at the track, you drive on the street. There's enough idiots on the street. We don't need more.
Yeah, that's
And if you
exactly
give them a place to go race, they'll race there.
Yeah, particularly when you get some instruction too, because then they'll just be that much more prepared for whatever might happen when they're on the road.
Listen, let's be honest. It's a lot more fun to drive your car fast here when you're not constantly worried about being arrested or killing somebody.
Exactly.
It's just a more enjoyable experience. Hey, if I get in trouble, there's a safety crew, there's friends, there's people.
Yep.
It's just it's better for everybody.
Corner workers, if something does go wrong, these folks are excellent at getting to you quickly and making sure everybody is able to walk away.
And what's really cool, Stephen, is that this, not only is the track here good for beginning drivers, that's part of Mike's long-term vision as well. Was that same thing? Is why not bring younger people here, teach them to drive in a controlled environment? And so Evan was just talking about how his dad was able to teach him on the track, because Dad's a race car driver. But think of that experience and what you're able to develop and learn from a professional driver. Mike wants to bring that same thing here on the 21st of next month. We're going to bring safety forces here, all part of the Lally Community Service thing. So he's going to be working with law enforcement. Come here, once again, learn how to drive. We got the Tahoes here for them to drive. That we do the Silverados that are coming out now. The Chevrolet just come out with. So how do you handle in a high performance pursuit related truck versus car? And again, this is just all part of the mission of the whole Tim Lally track days that grew out of, again, him sharing his passion.
Well, getting
You
young
made the New
people
Balance
involved,
thing there.
getting young people involved is really key, because if you can pick up some skills, autocrossing and different stuff, and you can pick up skills that they're hard to teach on the street. I mean, how do you teach them kind of a defensive driving and car control? Again, have your kids drift or you learn what happens when you get a little oversteer.
Right.
Out here, you can teach all that stuff where they can learn it somewhere safe, and it's going to make them a better driver. Because if you're a good autocross driver, you're probably going to be a lot better street driver, because you're going to have the reaction time, and you're going to know how to control your car when it gets a little out of shape. And that might not even be your fault that it got out of shape. Some guy pulls in front of you, you have to maneuver around him, car gets a little loose, you know how to control it.
Or weather.
Yeah, or weather or
When
anything.
we get our share, and
So just kind of more, and also a higher stress level. Stress driving is better, because it's all easy when everything's unicorns and rainbows. But when you start to get stressed, you start to forget. So it's just like anything. If you can train out here and give them that confidence, they're going to be a lot better drivers. So
if things start getting a little out of control and you can revert back to your training, I think it's the same in any field. You turn the outrageous into the somewhat routine. Having a back end kick out on a car on the track is not unusual. It's not time for panic. It's just the time to make sure your eyes are looking where you want to go. It's the old story of it. If you're looking at the tree, you're going to hit the tree. If you're looking through the turns and looking through the track, you'll be able to get your car straightened out. And there's times, I'm sure you guys have heard some of the audio when I'm in the car and I'm yelling at myself and using some expletives to try to get my eyes straight back.
Not you.
Course,
no. I can't, but you don't destroy my image. You're ruining it.
I have my challenges. And I know my limitations.
Yes.
Verbal controls, sometimes, particularly behind the wheel of a race car, is not there. And there's times.
I'm glad the internet wasn't around when I was a kid.
Oh, amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
I tell my son, I'm like, hey, all the things I did, you can't prove anything.
Exactly. Never convicted.
Can't get away with anything anymore.
Statute of limitations are out. There's no
It's
proof.
but it's kind of cool to be in this kind of a setting where you can work on those techniques, and then they're not going to teach that to you in any kind of driver's ed.
I know, Mike, that so I may or may not have been driving since the 80s, but probably one of the best pieces of advice was that first day on the track when you said exactly that. He said,
the look on your face was priceless that day, by the way. When we first took you out there at speed.
Might have had a teaspoon of something in my
I'm
shorts,
like,
who knows?
you want to quit, just tap me on the arm, just tap out, and he hung in there well.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience, but it was, you have that ability, and so do all your instructors, really, of making the complex simple. And it was just the advice was, don't look where your car is. Look where you want to go, and that's where you go.
Yeah, because where you are is too late.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I tell autocross, because I do a lot of autocross driving. I'm like, you should be thinking about that cone set over there. This too late.
Yeah, right.
You've ruined this, or you nailed it, one way or the other.
Yeah.
But you need to start thinking about up there. And we would tape off the windshields and try to the bottom part of the windshields to make people look farther ahead. Because none of that stuff matters now. You're up there.
Well, the interesting thing is, particularly when you're doing track stuff like this, it's amazing how much you use your side windows in order to see around corners. And I remember going to Bragg Smith School out in Nevada. And they literally put one of those sun visors across your whole windshield and have you run a cone course in it. You're looking behind the A-pillar, and it's kind of an extreme thing to do. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot that you get if you're actually. I tell everybody, if you think you're looking far enough ahead, double it, and then see if that works better. When you're taking a track and you're looking 100 feet in front of the car and you got a 2.2 mile course, you're trying to notch together a bunch of 100-foot increments as opposed to racing one track. And if you can run one track smoothly because you're looking through everything, it's a lot less notchy than little 100-foot increments that you hit run wrong and you try to correct where you're at.
I'll make it up on the back.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the business model of buy high, sell low. Doesn't work out in the long term real well.
I'm losing money on everyone, but I'll make it up in volume.
Yeah, make it up in volume. Yes, that seems to be a mantra of some of my contemporaries in the automobile business.
Yeah.
So,
Strange.
So, Stephen, you've seen a lot of dealerships, seen a lot of cars over the day. I want to know, so your first impression of the Lally organization, is there anything like this? Have you seen anything else like it? And what's your reflections now that you've had 2 different delivery experiences with us? Tell us about Tim Lally Chevrolet.
Well, I tell people, I go, there's a reason why I travel from Charlotte, basically, all the way up here to do a car buy. And it's sad, but the stereotype that people get of dealerships is often right, where dealerships is something you go in and it's just a lot of hassle, and you just feel they're just trying to look for a way to, it's like a battle of wits, like a chess game where you're trying to screw each other, who's going to come out and win. And I just didn't get that when I contacted them to buy the 2019. It was just straightforward. It's like, hey, we have the car, here's the price, here's what we can do. I worked with Jeff. He was great. Everything was seamless. Every promise he made, he kept. That's all I asked for. Just you feel like, hey, I can trust this guy. I mean, I know they're a business. They're trying to make money, just like I'm trying to save money, but they're not trying to screw you. They're trying to give you a fair deal, and they're trying to help you out. And that's what I got. I got treated well, and so when I talked to GM, and we talked about getting a 2022 for some stuff that we were going to do. The first guy I called was Jeff and said, hey, I'd like to order one of these. And of course, it ended up being a lot longer than we thought to get a car, but that's just today. And so I was very happy that we were able to get the car and before the 2023s came around and stuff. So I think we got one of the last 2022s off the factory floor.
Yeah, it was an eye catcher. Running the internet department, I had a line of about 20 people that wanted to buy that car for you.
Well, I got people offering. Yeah, I got people
money.
kind of post on like Facebook. I said, hey, I got rid of a new car, and I had, hey, I'll buy it off you. And I'm like, well, first of all, Chevrolet would kill me.
Yeah,
because I'm working with them on this, and second of all, no, because I want it. That's why I ordered it, because I want it. And,
Yeah, if that thing was a stock unit, I'm having a feeling it might have ended up in my garage because that's a cool car.
Yeah. Well, I built a '68 Camaro that's almost the same color. And so we're going to be doing a Track Rat 2 version where we're going to do some of the graphics and some of the stuff on the car to mimic that '68 Camaro that we built. So,
How did you think the car felt when you were out there driving?
very confidence inspiring. When you're in a new car like this, and this is the nice thing about a track day delivery, you don't have any confidence when you get a new car because you don't know. I mean, I kind of know they handle good. I've read. But, those are always professional drivers. So you're like, how does this handle? And love that car.
How does it handle for me? Is really the way you got to look at it. Yeah.
But those tires are a little slippery when they're cold and on the street. And that doesn't, then you're wondering how that's going to translate when you get to the track. But when those tires get warmed up, that car sticks. And every time I'm looking forward to go out in the afternoon, every time I pushed a little harder, it just kept sticking. And I really like to do follows. I like to follow somebody who's good. Because then I say to myself, well, especially if they're in a similar type car, well, he is going that fast in that curve.
Yep.
I should be able to go that fast in that. And then that gives me the confidence. And once you have confidence that your car is going to stick and that you're going to be able to do it, it's very reassuring. It's a very reassuring car. And
it's predictable.
So far, it hasn't let me down. The feedback from the car is very good. Tim Lally, they were able to supply me with an instructor that took me around the first year. I had never been on this track before. And tracks are like women; they're all different. And some are batshit crazy, some are great.
But so the same as if you cross the line, you're screwed.
Yeah, you go in too hot, and you're gonna end up in the.
There you go. You're going up in flames. Yep.
We could go really off.
Let's get back on topic.
Yeah, let's get back on topic. But yeah, they're able to show me around and show me some of the spots, like the decreasing radius and some different things. And then I got in it, and I was able to follow somebody around, and and every lap faster. And so I'm looking forward to go out there and try to not to lift in a few places where I know I shouldn't lift. But until you get used to it, I learned track slowly. And, some people go out there and the first lap, second lap, they're out there. Me, I have to kind of get to know everything and stuff. So
I try different things.
But it's a great track. It's very user friendly.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that's what Jeff was mentioning. Shout out to Colin Gross, who runs the Land Sharks company, and he put in so much effort out here to make this place cleaned up. So there's not blockages for your vision through a lot of the more intricate turns,
Yeah.
carousel turn with that decreasing radius that you mentioned. If you don't know that it's a decreasing radius, then you get in trouble. And that still doesn't keep people that have been here a lot from overshooting it. And, this past weekend, 3 different cars ended up on their roof. Most of them there. But being able to clean it up so you can see through, I think, improved safety here a heck of a lot. And on top of it, I kind of knew you'd feel good in that car when you got the tires that were literally developed at this track.
Yeah.
Those super
Those are
awesome.
not rain tires, but amazing tires.
Yeah, not rain tires. No,
Not rain tires. No. Disclaimer here: don't drive the car hard in the rain.
Yeah.
But yeah, just amazing tires, and
And the brakes on the car are solid too. Because let's face it, if you can't stop what you got going,
Yep.
people don't realize that brakes make you a heck of a lot faster on the track.
Well, if you can drive
they're
deeper
important.
into a turn before you have to brake, and you can brake harder and have that time, that moment shorter where you're under braking, that means you have more time under acceleration. That's going to get faster lap times. And I see guys all the time, they'll spend a ton of money on the engine, and they'll, okay, what kind of brakes can I get away with? I'm like, no, you're a guy with a crappy engine and great brakes will probably beat you around the track.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I've watched a lot of Miatas tear some guys up. They were not out horsepowering them, but they're keeping that momentum going in the car. And like you say, the deeper it is before you've got a brake, the longer you just made the straightaway.
And that's why a track delivery is great for guys who are new to cars. And even if they're not new to driving, they're going to probably be new to the car and get out to know the car.
And that's the thing, developing that confidence for what that car can do at the edge, you're not going to find that on the street.
You can't,
if you do, you're out of your mind.
Well, you're an idiot because you're going to end up arrested or crashed, or you see the videos. Brand new C8 wrapped around a tree. That was every one of those guys was a guy who didn't know his car and pushed it too hard and
ran out of talent before he ran out of courage.
Yep. Because I guarantee you, almost none of the drivers buying these are going to run out of car because these cars have proven with pro drivers what they can do.
Are we allowed to mention how that may or may not have happened with the GM exec once?
Well, if you have an official pace driver and you bump them because you're a GM exec, I just would tell you that hasn't worked out well in the past, and I hope the next guy, learns from, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. That's the best way to look at that. The Belle Isle incident.
Yeah.
That first 19, I think it was number 2 car, was facing the race, and a certain GM gentleman shut everything off, shut all the nannies off, just to pace the thing, and crashed it during the pre-race laps, and delayed the race like 45 minutes as they were picking up pieces of a car that I'd love to have in my garage.
But to our benefit, that made VIN number 3, which, Mike, you found that needle in a haystack to mark it out there, so it made VIN number 3 all that more special.
Yeah,
Than part of the
number
loud
1, number 2 was wrecked.
They could just wreck number 1.
Yeah.
You're like the guy out there buying the rare stamps and
We'll
lighting them on
oil
fire.
up wherever that car is located, oil up the roads around it. Make that number 3 even more special.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. So I've been in the automotive industry for going on pushing 20 years here in the Cleveland area. So Stephen, originally from Southern California, you've been all around, obviously been buying a lot of vehicles. I've never encountered a phenomenon like the track day that Mike does. I think this is kind of unique to Tim Lally Chevrolet as well, but you've got a broader, more national perspective. What are your thoughts?
There's not a lot of dealerships. There's some, but there's not a lot of dealerships that come from that performance background. There's a lot of dealerships that they sell cars. They don't care if they sell you a Tahoe. They don't care if they sell you whatever. They just want to sell you cars, and they're not racers. They don't have that passion, and they're happy to sell you a Corvette or Camaro, but that's just not, They drive
they're businessmen that just happen to be in the car business as opposed to car guys that happen to be in the car business.
It's the same thing with anything you do when you're in this hobby. If you get a suspension company ran by engineers that don't drive, or you get one that's owned by like Hotchkiss, where John Hotchkiss is a driver, so and guys like that, or Detroit Speed, and these guys that are drivers are going to just get a better driving experience. And I think if you want to buy a performance car, you buy it from a performance dealer. If your idea is you want to go out and track cars and you want to enjoy them that way, why not have a dealership that understands instead of one that freaks out when you come in with some rubber stuck under your car and you're like, yeah, I was out on the track and I had a funny noise or shimmy or something, they're going to probably understand what it is. Whereas the other guys are going to be, well, what do you mean you're on track? Well,
yeah, we are blessed there too, because you look at the Venomous Racing. I have still photos. I mean, we were down at Road Atlanta with our Corvette.
That's a scary place. You ever been there?
Yeah.
Oh, forget Road Atlanta. I still have nightmares.
Come up over the hill.
Dropping down.
Yeah, and then
so
it's
steep.
but they give it that big grassy area.
Yeah, that's nice. That's helpful.
I've never been on the grass, but
And that nice
Almost
concrete
been on
wall, if you overshoot it, is
Yeah.
really inviting.
it's
That one kept me up at night. Thank God we had the Forza unit in the bus, and
I don't.
I played that thing till 4 in the morning. I actually felt somewhat confident after
Yeah,
that.
that place
But
that's
spooky
blind,
place.
blind hills and blind corners and blind curves.
Man.
And, that's
I'll tell
Lots
you
of-
what, that's
lots of-
technical and courage.
lots of pucker factors.
Oh, that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
fact.
The only one I've been that's worse than that as far as is a Milford Proving Grounds for
Right,
gentlemen,
right.
which is
Done
just
that.
a complete. I mean, you'd be lucky if you could see
Throw
30
everything at you.
33 in front of you, and it's every bad thing you could try to put into a drive. I mean, every technical. They got a corkscrew, they got 80s, they got drops, they got hills.
And
they
every
got,
one of them will take you to the edge of the car's
Yeah.
capability.
and they drive it with one hand and a walkie-talkie, and 'cause they drive it all the time.
We
I try to
may or
drive it.
may not have an offender in that regard.
Yeah, he's like, mash the gas. You're fine. No, just mash it and set right. And I'm like, I can't see.
Yeah, you're picturing like a David Pearson with his one arm kind of doing the lean, having the smoke hanging out of
Yeah.
his mouth.
Yeah,
As they're
yeah.
going around like, yeah, no
Gee,
big
I've
deal.
never-
And
I
you're
never
like,
saw that.
"Whoa, whoa, holy crap.
Yeah.
And
humble
my
you-
first
it
Lally
humble you.
video, there's
That was
the
so
first
silly.
comment was, Mike, you're doing 150 mile an hour with your arm hanging out the window there, bud.
Yeah, we did a couple videos with some YouTube influencers, and some of them were just warm-up laps. Guys were panicking just a lot, and I wasn't even all that set to go out and rip. And then, when I leaned out a little bit, boy, you saw. The interesting part, Stephen, was, I had my race helmet on, so I've got ear cups, so I can't hear any of the audio whatsoever. It wasn't until the guy posted this stuff on YouTube that I got to hear
Him
what was
screaming.
going through his microphone.
Oh,
It was comical. Absolutely
put coal in his
comical.
ass, you'd have had a diamond at the end of the race.
Next time you build a little cry closet. And
I'll
next
tell
time,
you
have somewhere
what.
to go afterwards.
Well, I did. Brock came up with a good idea, the YouTube channel, which is like the puke cam, literally, because half the time you take new people out there, they get out of the car like, oh, I'm good, and they see him bolting from behind one of these buildings, just trying to find a quiet space to, let that sausage sandwich, find its way home.
Yeah. No, it's funny because oh yeah, I drive Forza. Oh yeah, I drive Grand Theft Auto, whatever the driving game they have, and then you're like, it's not. You can learn a track. It's not the same. And they're like, oh yeah, and then they come out and they're like, yeah, well, that's not the same.
Yeah, when the G's start
If you have
throwing
someone
around,
like, you need someone standing on your left side and someone standing on your right side, constantly yanking you back and forth, and you still don't think you're gonna die.
well, we
Like
had
when you're
taken
riding with a car.
our black Corvette race car that we run in Venomous, and we were doing some testing at pit race. And on 200 compound tires, we were hitting between 1.7 and 1.8 as far as G's. I'm in this beautiful, contained seat with a halo, with
Yeah.
with shoulder bolsters. Like, I'm not moving. Jim Lampman, my service director, is in the passenger seat with 3-point belts, and the ratchet wasn't working well. Every time I'm taking a right turn, I think I'm gonna lose him out the window. Every time I'm hanging a left, he's ended up in my lap. And a couple days later, he started getting massive muscle spasms from his core, and thought he was having a heart attack. And it's funny now because it wasn't, but at the time it was a little bit of a touch-and-go thing. But that poor guy was getting thrown around like a rag doll. And I kept saying, "You want me to pull in?" And he's like, "No, I'll push it. Let's see what we got." And I'm like, "Okie dokie, Jim."
That's why harnesses and good seats are so important, because
Absolutely.
if you're spending your time on track fighting to stay in your seat and to stay in a good seating position, that's energy you're not putting into your driving. And I'm
as
so
you get
happy.
As you get dehydrated, that turns
Right.
into cramping in those muscles.
And I can't tell you how happy I was when I saw the Camaro had the ratcheting belts.
Oh yeah, that's huge.
It's
At least
just-
as
I mean,
you're
it's-
starting, until you get some
Yeah.
harnesses.
Well,
in
you
it.
learn, you put your seat back and then you ratchet it and then you move your seat forward and try to
Tighten it till it hurts.
Tighten till it hurts. Yep.
Yep.
So we're going to be putting a roll bar in the back and put harnesses in it and stuff, just because.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, you know, depending on how much you're going to use it on a track, I've had to have this speech with a lot of our people that have kind of come up through these track days, and you know, some of them have turned out now. They've won SCCA championships, and you know, they've only been doing this a few years. I'm like, well, please know that this isn't that easy going forward, but. You know, you're looking at the numbers they're doing. It's like, all right, you're ready for a cage. You better get some harnesses. You better get yourself ready to go and get that car, you know, ready to protect you when you need it. Because after a certain point, you know, you're ripping. You know, if you're out here doing 70s, that means you're doing somewhere between 130 and 140 miles an hour on the next straight.
And I'll do my preaching here real quick that I always say. When you're buying your helmet, don't buy the cheapest helmet you can find.
You get one head.
Buy your helmet like you're going to die next week in a car accident, and you know it, and so you're trying to buy a helmet to keep it from happening. My line I always use when I ride is, nobody's going to be impressed you save $200 on your helmet when you're in a coma.
Yeah, amen. You got one
and
head.
I try to explain to people, because they always say, oh, the safety rating is the same. They're both rated SA, whatever. And I'm like, okay, do you want the doctor that just barely graduated medical school or top of his class?
Yep.
Because it's your head. So that and fire extinguishers. Don't go to AutoZone and buy the $15 fire extinguisher. It's going to do more damage to your car. Spend a couple $100 and get a good Safecraft or good fire extinguisher for your car.
Yeah. And I'll piggyback on what you're saying about helmets. You know, we're avid snowmobile riders, and we've got snowmobiles that.
I'm from California. I don't know what that is.
It's a small vehicle that goes really fast.
I've seen it in
on
pictures.
the snow.
Yeah, okay.
And so, but we'll get those things well up over 100 miles an hour, you know, and you'll see, of course, everywhere you go, you're going to find the Ricky Racer types, you know, and they paid $69 on a clearance rack for their helmet. And you're like, do you not care about yourself at all? And the other stuff that drives me crazy at track days like this is, you know, if you've got safety gear, if you've got a fire suit, if you've got shoes, if you've got the whole 9 yards, you've got a Hans, and then you go out and you're taking laps without it. Tell you, if something went wrong, what would you pay to retroactively go back?
Well, they go, it's hot. And I'm like, well, it's more hot when you're on fire.
I can personally tell you from a couple
on fire
of experiences,
is hot.
Fire is bad.
Yeah, that was last season.
Yeah.
Of course, I say that I'm here without any of my gear because I flew here and I was trying to cover it. But I did bring my helmet.
But
yeah,
just
wear
making
your
that
fire
comment
gear.
to Mike. They're like, you know, aren't you hot and all that? And that was exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but what if? You know, you don't know.
What kind of jerk am I if I hurt myself in that piece of gear that I had sitting in my trunk?
Right.
Literally could have saved me from that.
Well, it's like the guys on the motorcycle with the helmet hooked on the back.
Right.
You know, it's hooked on the back and they're driving with no helmet.
Yeah.
Because
I'll tell you one weird thing that happened to me. I mean, the irony of getting a seatbelt ticket from a motorcycle cop. I mean,
yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. And they,
I'm like, dude, you don't find this funny? Like, come on.
And most wear an open face helmet.
No, yeah. Like, he didn't find it nearly as funny as I did. Like, you know, it's,
yeah, so buy your gear and your car insurance like you're going to maybe get in an accident, because those are the things I found that people shop on price, and they're the last thing you should shop on price. So,
yep.
And we're doing a big story, and we're talking about helmets and about ratings and about that kind of thing. And I'm a big safety guy.
Amen.
I have a Safecraft little fire system, even though this is my play car and I'm not a race car, but it's like $500. I put a little tank in the back. I put some emitters under the hood. I get a fire. I flip a switch. It puts it out. People go, "Oh, I'm going to open my hood." I'm like, "How are you going to open your hood if it's on fire?" You're not.
Well, and give it more air anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's that. But how you just stick your hand in
more.
there and get the emergency latch.
Yeah,
so it's just stuff you need to think about and think like, I'm buying this to save my life. Not I'm buying this because I want to have more money left over for.
And unfortunately, speaking from experience, you know, I've endured a couple of hot situations due to fire. When you are about to set that extinguisher off, take a deep breath prior to pulling that handle, because having the oxygen sucked out of your lungs is a really bad feeling. Oof. As I'm about to light another cigarette. Attaboy, Mike. Never said I was smart.
But yeah, so that's my thing is safety. You know,
yeah, I completely agree.
And again, track days I think they make you a safer driver, and you know, and it's a great way to learn your car. And you got the dealership here to support you, and you got guys who know your car, and they know the track, they know the layout, and it's a smarter way to do it. The other way is you buy your car and you try to find a track day, and you don't know anybody.
Try to find somebody that knows
Try
the
to
car
find
that
there's
can help you
nobody
set it up.
car.
Yep.
You know, it's just taking a dealership delivery like this at a track is just a great way to learn your car, and you can go home and brag to everybody. And if you have the PDR, you can get a video of it. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and you're safe doing it.
and one of the things that becomes the advantage for us is, you know, I'll guarantee you, like with the upcoming Z06, you know, the first one's spoken for, and you know, it'll either be delivered in a couple hours or the owner's putting it in his garage, and you know, the owner's going to grab our first, but you know, off to Texas we go for testing and having some fun in the car. Steve, I know you've got an invite. You're going to be coming down and joining us,
come
but
down and see that.
there will be a lot of good information coming when we get that Z06 out there, because you know, the second we get it, we're one of the top Corvette dealers in the country. You know, as soon as we get one, we are.
The first one's going to go in some guy's garage where he's going to sit on it.
Yeah,
polish
wax
it
every month.
This is
And
my garage, so that kind of
the
helps.
second one, yeah. The next one of the next ones is going to go to some guy who's going to try to flip it for $100K over sticker. So it's nice to know that one of the early ones is going to get beat on the way God and the engineers at GM
Absolutely.
designed that. That LT6 is just a completely badass engine. I did a whole story on
Love
that.
the sound of that motor. Wow.
Just the amount of technology into that, and the way they cast the blocks, the two-piece block, everything is just, it's never, you know, it's never been done before. It's never been done before. The technology and the build of that engine on that car is just insane. And the amount of C8R technology that they bled over from that program. And it's actually faster because of all the balance of power rules. It's going to be just a phenomenal car.
Yeah, that's going to be a special automobile. I'm really chomping at the bit to get behind the wheel and put it through its paces. And you know, we found this out when we were doing you know, some tinkering with the C8, C51 cars. You had to get really aggressive with alignment to get that car to. I mean, it really loves going straight and fast. But getting that thing set up for a road course like this takes some kind of extreme adjustments to the car. And yeah, I know they did some architecture things that are a little different with the front end on there.
Well, the Chevrolet has to make allowances for the, you know, they build all their cars like the guy's just going to drive it to the grocery store and back, you know. But even like this car, though, they have the setting where you can turn the cam to the track setting and add the camber in. So they, you know, they try, but at the end of the day, that's why they build all their cars with understeer instead of oversteer.
Yeah,
you don't kill people with understeer. You just make them mad.
Yeah, that's a fact. And you know, the interesting part too is with the C8. Anybody that might have one on order, if you haven't ordered Z51 with it, I would suggest you do, because if not, you know, they've come out in writing saying they will not warranty that car for track use. And we were one of the first people to find out the limitations back when we had the Ghost, their first C8, and it was about 30 minutes out here, and I was getting verbal and somewhat disappointed in what was going on. You know, and they had never.
When you're
even
paying
tested
that much for the
speed.
car, just get the Z51 option.
It's the best deal on the sheet.
I know.
It honestly is. For everything you get, I mean, just try to buy those brakes over the parts counter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, you know, it's like this package. It's $7,500 for the 1LE package. Well, I couldn't take a Z01 and add that to it for $7,500.
Just the shocks.
Yeah.
Just those multimatics would blow your mind.
Yeah.
What
Well,
they cost.
the rear carbon spoiler is like $5,000.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's so cool when they do a car, you know, like the ZL1 1LE, and it's no different than, you know, the car that I brought out, you know, that Z28, where they put so much content in that car. You know, I remember when they came out with the car, and it was $76,010, and everybody was like, "Well, I can get a ZL1 for, you know, 20 grand less, and it's got more horsepower and everything else."
It's not all about horsepower.
Not at all. You know, particularly if you're somebody that likes running the track, you know, that's where the advantage of the ZL1 1LE or the Z28 come in and show, you know, the good brakes.
To buy once, cry once, just get it over with. I mean, you could own this car and just leave it stock and be perfectly happy doing track days with it forever. Because I guarantee you, until you can take that car to Germany and run the ring faster than that GM engineer guy did, you don't need to mod that car.
Right.
We mod the cars because it's fun, but the car, just the way it sits, is a great track car.
Yeah, and it's
buy
funny.
tires and oil and fluids, and
when you leave it stock, it's amazing how well they last. And you know,
well,
every time you seem to improve something that's a little you know,
I have
unorthodox.
I have a bad habit of effing with my cars until they're completely undrivable.
Right.
They're really fast, but it's just a nightmare to try to drive around.
Yeah, that's
it's
a
hard to
fact.
leave them alone.
The next weak link down the line breaks, and then you got to replace that, and by the time it's all done, you don't even know where you started. Yeah, that's what. And I will, and I will say this, which is tremendous. I mean, Chevrolet, who, in any kind of business relationship, it's not always perfect, but they warranty these vehicles to take them out and race them. And if something goes wrong, it's going to be fixed. And warranty racing is great, I mean.
And a full disclaimer, we did just pick up our car the other day, but we did break it in with a nice 500
properly.
miles. Went and saw Niagara Falls, drove around yesterday, and then we took it back over to the dealership this morning, and they did my complimentary oil change on it.
Yep.
And so it had fresh juices in it. And then when I get her home tonight to North Carolina, I'll throw it up on my rack, and I'll re-change out everything and try to change the brake fluid and everything on it to the stuff I like. But yeah, track delivery, you won't regret it. I don't think anyone's ever gotten done with that and said, "Oh man, that was terrible."
That's a fact.
Usually it's like, when can we do it again? When can we come back? When can I take my car out? Because it's addictive.
And what's really cool too is having everybody, all of our our professional racers are here, and of course we want to get out there and rip around in the cars. That's kind of what drives us all. But for these days, we're basically here to serve and teach and help and try to help, improve the skills of people that may not have had the opportunities to run that we have. And it's great, Paul Ham, Jim Anger, Jim Lampman, Matt and Rick, obviously our two techs that are also great drivers, Anthony Palella.
Well, where else are you going to go and have what amounts to free driving instruction?
Right.
Go call up, Rick Barber School or Bondurant or wherever, taking delivery of the thing. It's just a great experience, and it'll just make you like your car. You'll feel more connected to your car.
Yes.
That sounds like kind of like the whole "I love my car" thing.
Right.
That's true.
And we're a little less scripted, I think, than a lot of the other situations where you go to track day and they're you got some guy out front that's yelling at you because you're too close to my bumper. Like,
you guys are very friendly.
Come on,
no one
pedal on the right, pal.
Nobody hit me when I didn't take my turn right. So it was good.
We do have instruction from Kate. So if your ego can take that and you want some sharp criticism, she's there as well.
That's what I said. I'm
Number one instructor.
I said I need to get hit around, knocked around a little bit.
Yeah, well, she still does it to me, and I'm the one that taught her this track, and she will debate me on the line that I'm taking. So, it's always good though, because if somebody notices something, it might be a tenth, but it might be 5/10, and that can make a difference.
Yeah.
And it's it matters. So a lot of the folks that we have out here instructing, we won the SCCA first endurance race that they've had here in
the Giro National.
Yeah, like 25 years or something of that nature. And a lot of new national champions walking around, and it's kind of cool because, I had the, I had the luck and the blessing of being able to teach some of these folks some things out here on the track. And, some of it's only been a couple of years, I mean, poor Jim Lampman leaves his prior service management job, comes over to Lally. It's like, okay, yeah, you got to do all the normal service manager stuff, but handle the race cars, learn how to drive.
Jim's a great guy. Jim took me out and kind of showed me the track.
He's a great guy.
And stuff. So that was very helpful.
Former General Motors engineer.
And then, that's the thing I like about General Motors. So many of their engineers are freaking badass drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, you always say, like, oh, they ran the ring in, 716. Oh, it was a GM engineer. And you're like, well, no, that guy's like might as well be a professional race car driver. Yeah. He's just a complete maniac. Henderson, all these guys, Mark Stilo, these guys, they're engineers.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, so is an astronaut, like in the Apollo. Yeah, they're all engineers.
Jim Mora,
they're freaking astronauts.
The craziest one was when Bill, I can't remember Bill's last name, but I used to run with him many years ago, and he did the Z28 test in the rain.
Oh yeah, in the rain he ran like an insane time.
Yeah, like a 725 in the rain. Like,
yeah, go look up that video, people. That video's nuts.
Oh my God! Yeah, I thought I could drive, and then this dude is taking turns at 160 in the rain.
With a tire lifted, and they're airborne in that one section where people got to Yeah,
that like. I don't get shook too much watching the video. That video shook me, man, because
And you're like, you look at his time, and his time's like, well, that's really good. And you're like, that was in the rain, and they're like, oh, well, that was really, really, really
oh
good.
yeah, what could he have shaved off? But the ring is so big, it can be raining in this parts of the track, and then over here it's dry. So, and once he was up at pace, I'll tell you, he just kept at it, and there's a couple times where
he worked for that.
Oh my God, did he?
You can see his wheel working on the it's inspirational, and it makes you feel like he sucked.
It does, because
you watch it, and you're like, I would have went home.
Normal people get those busy hands, and you're just like, like every one of those movements of his hand saved him from really bad things. Because some of those Nürburgring wipeout videos.
But again, that's
crazy.
a guy that's been hundreds and hundreds of hours probably in that car, and he knows that car. And again, it goes back to knowing your car and getting comfortable with your skill level. And that was a guy that had the ultimate level of knowing the car and had complete confidence in his skill level.
As he called it, it was his baby.
Yep.
He was involved since the beginning.
Again, getting out with your car, getting out to the track, getting comfortable with your car. You won't be running the ring in 716, but you're going to be a lot better driver in your car everywhere on the street. And you won't feel the need to I always feel like people that drive their car at the track, they don't need to race the dude on the street because they're like, I don't have to prove anything.
Yeah, they got it out of the system.
And I got it out of my system. And, it's the guy who goes up and punching bags, he doesn't probably go get bar fights as much.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And so it's a great way, and it beats doing chores. Guys, go to the track. Because when you're at the track, you can't fix the railing or have to do all this other stuff.
Yep.
And it's just a great, and trust me, when you're driving, it's like scuba diving in a way. I used to scuba dive. When you're on track and you're driving, you cannot possibly think about any problems you have in life because you're in the moment.
The ultimate catharsis.
Yeah, you're everything, nothing else you're worried about. You're just there with you and your car, and just maybe a little bit watching other people around you. But for the most part, it's just you and the car and the track.
As expensive as it is, it's an awfully inexpensive shrink.
Yeah, it's cheaper than therapy.
That's a fact.
It's cheaper than divorce.
Yep.
It's cheaper than anything.
Yep.
So,
and the other thing that I could tell people is, take any instruction that you can get that will help you get to become a better driver, because when ego gets you to stop learning, it's no different than in the business world or racing or anything of that nature. Right? If you're just playing Texas Hold'em, learn. The more you can learn, the better off you're going to be. And those tools all go in the box. You never know when you're going to need that tool.
Yep. No,
you will.
I'm driving down the highway, a coyote runs out, and have to do a dodge around it, and I'm like, autocross, road racing, all that saved me.
Yep.
Because that reaction time of something going on, and again, back to the teenage thing, that's what happens. I've driven with my son. He's just turned 18, getting his license, but I did that whole year of driving with him, and usually it's something happens, and he just deer in the headlights, can't figure out what do I do.
The cool thing about this track too is we actually even provide that wildlife experience.
Yeah,
So.
I've heard about that. I've heard
Badgers,
about it.
beavers.
Quick heads up, we have lost connection, so we are still recording. So we're good on audio, but we aren't live right now, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm trying to get us back.
Well, fuck. But they work.
Those big wing cars from 1970.
Yeah.
I mean what
We
they
are
did.
back.
Yeah.
They made rules just for those automobiles because of the speeds.
Back
they
when
could
stock
attain.
car racing was stock.
Right. Yeah. You actually knew when a Dodge was a Dodge and a Chevy was a Chevy and a Ford
they
was
have to
a Ford.
invent something like the Aero Coupe. And
Yeah.
just
Remember
because
that
they
car?
wanted to run it in NASCAR,
Yeah.
it's like, really?
Yeah, that SS Monty with that
Yeah,
sloped
Aero-
back. Yeah. I remember I was looking at one. I was used car manager, and this thing came in with cigarette burns all over it. Smelled like smoke. It was just beat. And I put like a normal wholesale number on it. And the customer got salty and left. And my dad ripped me a new one for not knowing what I was looking at.
Really?
He's like, we'll put brand new seats in the damn thing. We'll put brand new carpets. We'll make the thing perfect. But you don't let that car go. Go find him. So I
find the
literally had to
Aero Coupe
drive
guy,
down Broadway Avenue in Bedford, down along the auto mile until I saw the trade and went out right on the other guy's lot and said, come back. I screwed up. And luckily, he gave me another shot, and we got that car in. And that car did not last 24 hours. I didn't touch a thing on it. And we, You know, it didn't make a whole bunch, but kind of like it seems like we run the Chevy store. As long as we can pay for our race tires, we're good. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of cool history out there with cars and stuff. So we're gonna do something on wings and talk about Aero and how it's coming back. I mean, you're buying factory cars with freaking canards,
Yes.
with Aero
Working canards,
with all kinds of crazy downforce
air
numbers.
relief on the hoods,
What is
just
it?
so you don't lose all that that
300 pounds
downforce.
of downforce or something with that rear wing at speed. I mean, it's just stuff that really was race car shit.
Oh yeah, and when you look at like the 19 ZR1 and what they did, you know,
Well,
that car was
you
just
go back to the 80s and the 90s, and every scoop on every Chevy and Ford was fake. They didn't scoop air anywhere.
yeah, absolutely.
They just looked scoopy. And now every
Add a little bling.
add a little bling, make you feel like you're in a race car. Well now
Yeah.
it's
Well, my back end is
every
passing my
scoop
front
is
end. Is that
real.
good?
Yeah. Every scoop on that car is sending air to some cooler or something.
Yeah, there's a black Z06 out here. My good friend Greg Warner is running the car around, and good driver. But Jimmy Lampman and the guys in the back added some aero to it. You know, gave him a big wing on the back, gave him a splitter up front, and the difference in how he feels out there, it's an amazing difference.
Well,
you
you
know?
never saw a wicker bill on a street car.
Right.
You know, you never saw, it's
Yeah.
just stuff that's it's just the way it kind of evolves and morphs over time. It's, people like going fast, and this
Yeah.
technology can now, I mean, think about it. If that was a race car built 20 years ago, you'd spend a lot more than the sticker price on that car to build that. Say,
Yeah.
hey, I want to build a track Camaro, and I want to have this, I want to have an electronic differential, and I want coolers, and I want this, and I want that.
We'll go back 20 years ago and try to put carbon fiber on anything.
Yeah.
And the cost of it was,
Yeah.
I remember I put a pan in the bottom of my 99 Mallet Vet, and that pan was $9,600.
Yeah.
We took it out to run it in the Silver State Classic. It was letting no air through to cool the car down.
Yeah.
Luckily, we stopped in to see my buddy Rupert, who at the time ran Spring Mountain Racetrack. And they had the Corona IndyCar team there. And this kid that couldn't have been 25 years old is like, oh, I'll get that handled. And he's grabbing a Sawzall and jumping under my car. I'm like, who the hell are you? and the guy was the crew chief of this IndyCar team and ended up doing some crazy mojo. I don't know if it was voodoo. I don't know if he cut a chicken's neck or what the hell happened there. But he was able to cut some slits into this pan, and that's the best we ever had that car perform. I mean, we just the record that we set in the 160 class, which is the category is called Super Sport. It's a time distance rally, so we were just a fraction of a second from hitting it dead on the nose, and that record is still standing today. And that was 2001. That was over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And how about this? Tim Lally in February will be our 100-year anniversary. I'm wearing that well, aren't I? I mean, for 100 years at this,
you're
You're like a year over 88.
Thanks. It's a good, clean living. Let me
Yeah.
light another smoke.
Yeah, like, I have another cigarette there. But, hey, you're drinking water though. So
But it was kind of cool, doing some of the homework on this stuff. And my grandfather, had started with the company and ended up picking up some stock when business would get tight. And then in the Great Depression, they couldn't pay him at all. And Grandma was an old Eastern European woman who, let's just say, was frugal. And when the country started climbing out of that depression, we ended up owning a majority of the stock. And you talk about humble beginnings and why we do this. I mean, we just love cars. My dad took me on a hell ride, and
that's what I noticed when I'm in the back in your service bay. You go to normal service bays, and there's service cars. There's if you're at a Chevy dealer, there's Malibus and there's Tahoes and there's you go there's like 10 race cars in a row.
Yeah.
There's a freaking GTO with a ZL1 wing on it, a 1LE wing on it, and a LS swap full race in it.
We just had it out this weekend in the 24 hours at Nelson. The longest day.
So you feel comfortable. You're like, okay, I'm with guys that do this, and
Yep.
I'm with guys that can point. And I would also say there's value in working with a dealership that can point you in the right direction, because the internet is a minefield of bad ideas and bad advice.
A lot of experts out there, though.
Oh,
Huh?
everyone, yeah. I'm an expert. Just ask me. I'll tell you. that can tell you what works and what doesn't. It's like, hey, I want to track this car. I want to go out and do some stuff. Where's the best place to spend my money? Okay, you don't want pads, you don't want brake, whatever it is. These guys do it. They're not just like looking, well, what's my best margin item? Oh, here, buy that.
And Lampman is an absolute trip with that because, he literally can pull up, like for your car, he can pull up all of the proper specs to align that car for different tracks.
Yeah.
And half of them are just memorized.
Yeah.
Farva. No shenanigans.
It was kind of cool too. So last year when I started to approach Mike and say, this whole track day story was probably something people should hear about, and we began to publicize it because this is just Mike sharing his passion. They had worked on a whim. He got somebody traded in a Z06 and automatic. Mike's like, yeah, these should have overheating problems on these, and Lampman's like, I think I could fix that. Next thing you know, they're pulling Camaro parts here, this and that. We call it Frankenstein. They get the Frankenvet all back together, come out here, test it, solved it, it worked, raced it.
I tried so hard to get
it.
that C7 Z06 to overheat, particularly with that automatic. And we let that thing shift itself, which it's really busy. A lot of shifts that probably didn't need to take place considering the torque monster status, but I couldn't overheat that no matter how hard I tried, no matter how long I stayed out. And it was going from driver to driver to driver, and we were all doing the same thing. And, Jim just Frankensteined up something. We were walking by the car one day, and we go, that Z06 is just beautiful. I just, it was something we could drive at the track. Jimmy's like, well, why not? I'm like, those Z06s, they just, unfortunately heat up quick.
C7?
C7, yeah. C7
I have to say,
automatic.
the C7s are my favorite generation Corvette. A C7 ZR1. Now, of course, they're unobtainium price now, but that that one in the orange, that'd be mine.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be my bucket
We
list
have
car,
one here,
yeah.
don't we?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if Bo and Scott brought theirs. I mean, Bo,
They did
funny,
not.
Funny story. Bo, Brock Lally, how you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
Oh,
Good to
feel
be
like
here.
$100. Bo Lurch was next to me in a campground where I had my RV, and I invited him to a track day. And I'll invite 100 people. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, I'll be there, and then doesn't show. And then Bo shows up, brings his business partner, Scott, and since then, how many just ridiculously sick cars have they gotten from us, Brock?
They got a better inventory than we do right now.
I am a little embarrassed.
Hey, we don't have what you're looking for, but we know a guy that might.
Yeah,
So.
we're gonna point you Bo and Scott's way. They got
Yeah.
anything you could want.
They got a 757 Callaway Z06, Z28,
You have a car alarm?
SS1LE, ZR1. I'm missing something. Oh, C8.
Yeah.
I mean, just now ZL1. Yeah. Talk about getting hooked. As I've said to many people,
got the bug.
this is one of the most expensive habits
Yeah.
that you could come up with.
Lighter me.
At least that's not distracting whatsoever. Having
Yeah.
the horn blasting in our eardrums.
Started
Ramel was
another-
in the passenger seat of the BMW, and he had the keys in his pocket.
Yeah.
Well, that started the other one. Now it's like a wave. Now there's
Yeah, it
another one.
started a whole course up.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, special thanks to everybody who joined us today. It's probably the fullest the paddock's been on a track day in quite a while. We've got a lot of spectators joining us.
I won't take any credit for that.
And absolutely, there you go. A lot of spectators joining us today. Of course, shout out to our friends at EBC Brakes. We heard you talked about braking earlier. We're going to have them on a little bit later to talk about their special brake pads that they developed right here in the Cleveland area. And of course,
You can change brakes a lot with the pads.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rotors are calipers clamp.
ABC's been great to work with.
Rotors
too.
didn't need to last, but your brakes
Great
will be
product.
made by the fluid and the pads.
Yeah. Yeah, and Preston.
And
from
they're the
EBC
cheapest things. So
Preston has been at every one of our racing events, no matter where we're racing. Preston from EBC has shown up there and, provided some technical support, but mainly just cheered us on and, pulling for us. And that means a lot. It's really kind of cool. But, we're
Mike,
down
as a
in Road
driver,
Atlanta.
though, what do you think on the brakes? Because I was talking to the other gentleman this year about the unique technology where they, heat them up in a 4,000 degree oven so that they're not going to be, you can't overheat those
Right.
pads here, and how they make them just for racing. So they started motorcycles, moving into cars, and Venomous was one of the beginners. You're a driver. What do you think? You've had the pads out there.
Well, I can tell you that we're running aggressive GM stuff, and it's no comparison to when we put the EBCs on there. They, you almost at some times just had maybe even a little too much braking, which there's really not such thing as long as you can, modulate yourself.
As long as
into
you know
it.
that.
Yeah, and once we all got used to them, we could never go back. I mean, they really put together some great stuff for us, and having those kind of brakes allows us, as we mentioned earlier, to be able to drive, make that straightaway longer. We can go in hotter, we can come out hotter, and just the slightest bit of modulation in that pedal can go from an oh shit situation and bring it right back home, and you're breathing easy again. And having that kind of confidence in your brakes is huge. Objects in motion tend to remain in motion, and
Brakes will give your confidence.
yes,
It's like
clearly.
skydiving without a parachute. It's a lot more comfortable to skydive if you know you can stop
Amen.
before the ground. And same thing about driving around on these tracks at speed. If you know, okay, I can brake, and if something happens, it's just going to give you more confidence to drive your car.
Well, Jeff, you drove around in that ZL1 1LE with me. We hit 150 miles an hour on the back straight, and a jumbo jet leaves the ground at 145. So, put in perspective, you clip along pretty darn good, and it kind of ties into the whole aero conversation as well, because something that can leave the ground that weighs what that jet does.
Yep.
Pretty important to keep your car down on the ground.
On the ground.
Yeah,
air over your car good, air under your car bad.
not so good. Found that out in the first Silver State we ran fast,
Yeah.
and we never took that for granted again.
No, I one time, I was telling you, I drove my 68 Camaro like we did 70 mile run 174. That thing was pretty light because it had the GM spoiler in the
Sure.
front. That wasn't doing anything. The amount of air under my car yelling was probably quite a bit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's hot for a car like that. That doesn't have the benefit.
So
of
yeah,
aero.
and again, GM is spending so much time doing the aero on these cars, and it's all real functional aero. It's not, ooh, look at me, I've got a wing and Tokyo Drift or whatever it is
Right.
you're trying to emulate. It's real aero that does stuff.
Quit stealing my lighter, Lally.
Learn from you, boss.
You think these guys could afford more than one lighter?
I know what I pay him. He can afford his own lighter.
He's got a drawer full of my lighters at his house, so I don't want to hear it. We're evening the score right now. So.
Look, if they're in my drawer, they're not your lighters anymore.
Understood.
Possession is 8/10 of the law.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
a fact.
We're gonna have to get back out there. I need to get Mike to give my son a ride around.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, yeah, he did it for my boy here last track day. He had a great time. His first time on the track. He actually got to go 6 mile an hour higher than I did, so
Yeah,
I got to outdo him.
I have no ego. So,
So,
that's all right.
so Stephen, we really appreciate you joining us today. Where can folks find your work, find you
Well,
online?
motortrend.com, do the hot rod drop down, or just hotrod.com, www.hotrod.com. I usually throw stories up there all the time. I do a little bit of everything from events to engine builds. I'm a big LS guy, so LS swaps, LS builds, and you'll be seeing the car here. We're going to be doing a lot of different stories on the Camaro over there. We're going to do stuff about setting up your car that we're going to work with the Lally group with, and we can't wait to do some stuff on the Z06 when it shows up.
Yeah, it's going to be some fun.
Oh,
And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank, the Ross family and all the people that work here at Nelson Ledges. Great hosts. And you got to love when your home track is pulling for your race car when you're out there. They're like our biggest fans. Thank you. I know that we need to finish more races. We'll get that handled, and we'll keep rocking and rolling with it. But particularly thanks to the Ross, because this place, which is so dear to my heart, almost disappearing off the face of the earth, and could have been just another shed ugly condos.
we had enough
The
of
history of this place, and first track Roger Penske ever ran, first place that Paul Newman ever ran. It's a really cool history here, and I'll tell you, it's great to be able to get out here. I taught my boys how to drive out here. Taught a lot of people, some skills, and we could have done without the support of these guys. And hopefully at some point you can grab Brian and get him out here too, talk a little bit, and just make sure that we thank him over and over and over, because not only do we race here and completely abuse, our privileges, but half the time I got my motorhome here and I'm living here. So, it's another piece of cathartic intelligence I've gained in my years.
Love it.
Gotta have a getaway.
Catch more at NelsonLedges.com. So we're going to wrap up this segment here. Again, thanks to our friends at Nelson Ledges, NelsonLedges.com. Stephen Rupp, hot rod writer for Motor Trend, EBC Brakes. We're going to be talking to you a little bit later.
Yeah, and at that Nelson Ledges site, there's also, the Lally days won't be in there, but all the tracks open opportunities to come out and run will be listed on their website. And support a place like this. If we don't support our local tracks, we won't have local tracks.
Yeah, come out, run your car, have fun, thank me later.
Yeah,
There you go.
and Stephen
Amen.
talked about how great the track is. So from a first-time perspective, from a professional who's seen a lot of them.
It's only scary the first time. Once you do it, you'll be fine. It's like drag racing and you don't know the tree. And one time you do it, you go, oh, this isn't so bad. And then
Absolutely.
you're hooked.
Yep.
And the same thing, autocross, you just got to suck it up. Everyone's friendly. I found track days in front of the most friendly people that usually want
Absolutely.
to. There's a couple dicks in every group. But for the most part, everyone's friendly. They just want to help. They give you some ideas. And because at the end of the day, everyone just wants to have fun.
Yeah, and if you come out and you're not comfortable, almost every time I've ever been out at a new track, someone will grab me and take me and show me the way to do it proper. And, use your head to use your friends. That's what this whole system's about. And racers love sharing this stuff because we want more people out on the track. We want more people to make sure that places like Nelson Ledges are things that survive. I mean, we're blessed because we've got Nelson Ledges, Mid-Ohio, not too far down the road, and then we have Pitt just across the border in that other state where those Steelers are at. But we're blessed. We've got so many good places to run, and they all give you a different experience. Obviously, I'm partial to Nelson Ledges. This is, you got to have some technique, but you sure as hell got to have some courage here, because when you're hitting these turns right, you're hitting the kink at speed. That's sketchy the first few times you go through there.
I'll tell you, there's no better feeling than when you nail a really good lap. And you get a lap and you're like, I know that lap was good.
Yes.
Or when you finally nail a turn that you've been sucking at,
Yep.
and you're like, that's it. You have
Yep.
that epiphany, that moment where you go, okay, I get it now. I need to set up this way. And that's just a great feeling.
The downside of that, though, is being up till 4 o'clock in the morning, rerunning the track over and over and over in your head, which is what I do every time I leave. Like, I know I've got a couple tenths there. I know I've got something there. And, it's a funny balance between caution and courage that you have to achieve. But, what's cool is that when that high-pressure situation comes up on the road, you're not going to get shook. You've already been through some things that have rivaled or exceeded the pucker factor, and you know what to do. You revert back to your training, and you're awfully happy that you were at that track day.
Yeah, fantastic. So sign up for the track day events at NelsonLedges.com. Don't forget to check out TimLally.com. Check out if you do have a performance vehicle, definitely owe it to yourself and your car to go to EBC Brakes. Thank you guys so much. And folks, keep staying tuned. Subscribe, hit subscribe button, and catch the content coming from the Tim Lally
Give us a
Performance
thumbs up,
Report.
too, while you're at it. Isn't
Amen.
that important in this stuff?
There we
Something
go.
about thumbs.
Thank you.
Something about thumbs.
Thumbs up.